This is your friend Sean. Hopefully, everybody's having a good evening. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes until I get started. I do apologize for this morning. Apparently, I was recording. I did 2 recordings, and one of the recordings I talked for like 8 minutes, and I didn't even have connection. I had no connection at all, and I kept talking, and I know I've done it before. Probably I'm a little bit broke, to be honest with you, this month, but probably come December, I'm gonna pay for my internet again and for my car, so I have a better connection. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys being very patient with me, a little bit too patient. If you guys are outside right now, I'm in Southern California, right at the Mexican border, about a 50-minute drive from Arizona. If you're outside, look to the west. If you look to the west, you should see Elon Musk's cloud. I think that they launched some like satellite in orbit or something. I don't know what it is, but I just think it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat. I mentioned to look to the west. I can see it pretty good. Where are you guys at? And can you see this thing that is somewhere in the western sky? Anyhow, what we're going to talk about? Oh, yeah. So I want to talk about security companies paying for training. And then I want to do a debrief with you guys. We just finished our first California post-certified course. And when I say we, I mean Citywide Protection Services. CWPS has a post-training division, and we issued our first certificates on Thursday and Friday, last Thursday, Friday. We have another class coming up this week, on Thursday and Friday, and it looks like we have 5 seats available. And if you guys are interested, check out my description box below or above, and click on the link. Go find my email and just let us know if you're interested or not in attending our California Post Certified 2-day class. It's a 16-hour class. It's a California Post Active Shooter Response class. What's up, FCJ9? What's up, Giannis Protective Services? What's up, Jack Spade Productions? What's up, TB? What's up, Mike from the Professional Security Journal? Thank you so much for moderating all these videos. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you guys are all doing well as well. Awesome. Okay, so the question is, do security companies pay for advanced training? Now, there are some security companies out there where they need to hire as many guards as possible. They usually have in-house trainers, and they will pay for your 40 hours of training. Now, in California, I say 40 hours because in California, you need 40 hours of training within your first 6 months of being at a post or being assigned to patrol. Off the get-go in California, you need to complete a 4-hour guard car course, and then on the same day, usually you have a 4-hour appropriate use of force class. It used to be weapons of mass destruction, but California state legislator doesn't believe that there are terrorists that you're going to counter, so they took that off the mandatory requirements. Instead, you got to take some DEI related training that involves de-escalation. It involves diversity, inclusion, and racial bias. They took away the terrorism training, and they replaced it with DEI related courses. I'm not saying it's a good thing or bad thing. I just don't want the YouTube algorithm to smash the video to its bottom. But if you ask me, it's kind of stupid. But anyhow, after that, you got to complete an additional 16 hours of mandatory elective training. One of the classes is communications, and the others like handling difficult people. I can't remember what the other ones are. I'm on the road driving, 50, 60 miles an hour. But anyhow, the last 16 hours is basically your elective classes, you could take a firearm permit class, you could take a baton class, you could take chemical agent class, electronic control device class, you could take an executive protection class if you want. And then every single year you got to complete your annual 8-hour continuing education requirement. So that's California. I know different states have different requirements. Now, active shooter response training. This is like an extra class. CQB related training. This is an extra class. Advanced firearms. This is an extra class. And I'm going to give some special shout outs to 3 security companies I know where they pay for their employees to go out to this training. And sometimes they pay for lodging, meals. And I'm really, really impressed. Overall, I'm impressed with these 3 security companies. The first security company that I got the privilege of training is Primary Security Agency. They have a training division. I know that there was some split on ownership, and I believe Primary Security Agency is not owned by the same owners anymore. They split. Part of the split is Giannis Protective Services. I know I'm butchering his company. I'm sorry. Butchering his name. And then he also has a training division called Giannis Training Division or something like that. Excuse me. The other company I want to recognize is CWPS, Citywide Protection Services, in March or May of 2023, in collaboration with Global Veterans, GVPS. That was Randy Nunez. Actually, he still owns that company. That was one of his company. He did the 1-day active shooter class. CWPS, Citywide Protection Services, signed up, and they paid for 2 days of training. And I honestly, I didn't think that they were ever going to create a post-certified training agency. We didn't even know that. Matter of fact, Randy Nunez wasn't even the deputy chief at Citywide Protection Services. He didn't even know what Citywide Protection Services was until I did a social media review on them, and that's what happened, right? So let's skip them. And then the last company, special shout out, is Pais Tactical. They're based out of the Lancaster area. Juan Pais runs that organization, and he paid for 6 of his security officers, his most loyal guys, the guys who's been with them for years, including he paid for the operational manager to attend. So these are the patrol guys. I'm pretty sure, I mean, he has a fairly large security company when you compare his company size to other ones. And I know that there's some of the standing guards or the event security might be saying, well, I wasn't included in this training. Well, no, you weren't. You're not part of patrol. It looks like the priority right now goes to patrol. And sometimes, the patrol guys may or may not train the event security and the other standing guards some of the events, but they might, help them out with some of the training needs. But anyhow, if you're complaining, then show up to these classes. Pay with your own dime. But Juan Pais, he went the extra step and paid for his own guys to attend. What I really liked is that when you're a security company owner, or you manage a security company, you supervise a security company, and you attend these trainings, you're opening yourselves up to criticism. Because when you talk about a policy or a tactic or a technique that you use, I don't know if you guys ever work with us, with me and Randy and the CWPS family, we don't hold nothing back. There's open criticism. We don't care who you are. We will openly criticize some of your techniques, your tactics, and we'll have a conversation about that. But what I really liked is that, Juan Pais, the owner of Pais Tactical, showed up. He probably knew that we were going to criticize something that he had into place, and that's what we did. And, he's making everything so much better. And what I really liked was he came in with an open mind, open ears, and we work great in the class together. So that is awesome, man. And when you get a security company owner that's willing to pay a couple of thousands of dollars to send his guys to training. So if you want to be if you want to be the fourth, and I'm not putting down anybody else that attended, I'm just recognizing these guys because they send a significant amount of people. There's another organization. Again, I don't want to put any organizations on the spot, but there's two others. One was sponsored by a private university, and the other undisclosed private university, and the other works for an undisclosed hospital, and he paid out of his own pocket, which is awesome. We really like all of these diversity of students. But if you want to be the fifth company to send your guys to our training, I mean, we've got one on Thursday, Friday, let me know, and we'll recognize your company for going above and beyond and really providing the training. Anyhow, the ones who get these tactical level trainings are usually your patrol guys, if anything. And sometimes they'll bring an instructor on board. They'll pay for their presence. I mean, they'll pay a couple thousands of dollars, $10,000, $5,000, however much it costs, and then they'll train like 20 people, 30 people, or 10 people. Usually it's cheaper that way, but that's what they do, is they train at the patrol division. You typically put, I don't want to say your better people, because that might be far from the truth, but your most polished people are on patrol. Now, one of my favorite companies out there, Black Knight Patrol, I've heard some criticisms that only the upper echelon, the elite instructor, you're thinking about attending, or maybe you're thinking about attending one of these classes, maybe in another state. I think there's some really important training topics to discuss. First things first, we only got 16 hours. What you're basically doing is you're smashing 40 hours into 2 days. I am an alert level 1 instructor, which means that I've attended the 40-hour advanced law enforcement rapid response course, the instructor version, which is given by Texas State. The FBI fully supports Texas State for alert level 1 training, and alert is totally funded. I mean, it's significantly funded by the Department of Justice. They have like $1 million, I don't know if it was a $50 million grant, but a huge grant. And states like Tennessee and Texas, I think that they require training through alert, which I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. On the California side, what we did is, on the post level, there was a couple of FBI instructors that got their division or their training, their district. They got their course post certified, which is a 2-day course. So what we did at CWPS, Citywide Protection Services, by the way, I'm on their cadre now. What we did is we basically were using their curriculum that was already post approved. We tweaked it a little bit, and we are presenting, basically it's not an alert class, but it runs very similar to alert. When I took the alert class, we got limited breaks. I mean, one of the lunches was like 20 minutes long. Sometimes we got out like 10 minutes late or 9 minutes late, but we ran course in the most intense manner possible. What I'm saying is, that's kind of like how this course was ran. We ran it minute by minute. On the last day, I think we were dismissed like at 5:15, 5:16. We were wrapping it up at 4:45, but we were actually leaving, meaning that the students were dismissed at about 5:15, 5:16. By 5:30, all the students were gone, right? What we did is we looked like we eliminated some of the 5 or 10 minute breaks, and we got to leave a little bit early, but ask the guys that were there in the class. I think we went 1 minute over on the first day of class. You're getting all this curriculum and you're smashing it into 2 days, right? Active shooter response alone, I believe, should be a 40-hour class. Now, what I recognized is that like a good portion of this class is active shooter management or critical incident management. Also ICS, Incident Command System Management. I think we spent a lot as well talking about the new use of force laws. right? AB 2 or Senate Bill 230, AB 392 or 395. And basically, there are rules of engagement when it comes down to confronting an active shooter. Because there's rules of engagement, we have to talk about the penal code. We have to talk about 835A of the California Penal Code. There's like a whole hour discussion on the rules of engagement. There's a long discussion on establishing a command post, establishing your CCP, your hold on guys, your casualty collection point. That's your CCP, casualty collection point. We spent so much time having administrative points. I mean, honestly guys, this is a good portion of the class. It is critical incident management, right? Now, how much time is devoted into actual CQB, close quarter combat, clearing rooms? Out of a 16-day class, I mean, you're talking about maybe a few hours long, maybe 5 hours, maybe 6 hours. The PowerPoint discussion, which includes the administrative stuff, quote, administrative, right? That's 6 hours out of a 16-hour day. So that leaves us with 10 hours. And not every single minute is going over teaching rooms, clearing rooms. Now, you can, if you're saying, Sean, I'm not going to waste 2 days. I want to get straight to the point and start to learn how to clear schools and buildings and rooms. You're going to the wrong class. You don't need a post-certified class then. I don't know where they are for that type of training, but it's not post-certified training. Scenarios. Okay, we do some scenarios. I think we only were able to do 2. And scenarios should not be rushed on the students. A scenario should only occur when the basics are mastered. And this is not the first active shooter class that I've taught. With me and Randy together, this is probably our 5th class. And what we notice is that we're not able to run scenarios as long as we want. Honestly, if you want a scenario intensive training, you're probably looking for like a 40-hour class. Now, you might be saying, Sean, I took an 8-hour class. And it was only scenario based. Well, what did you learn? Did you die in this training? Did you survive? What did you learn from it? And if you're saying, well, I got to use my tactics or techniques, okay, I get it. Where did you learn these tactics and techniques from? When is the last time you did it? Who taught you? Because many times, what happens if you attend a class that is just scenarios, you're basically perfecting a bad technique under stress. That's all what you're doing. I don't think that almost every single training entity should be offering scenario-based training, like running a whole scenario from start to finish in an 8-hour class. I've never seen it ran successfully in any of the classes that we've done. We haven't even mastered the basics yet. We're pushed to do scenarios. And the whole scenario training or scenario-based training where you actually have an event where you have rounds being popped off, like simulated gunfire, you have people running away, that satisfied management. It satisfies the owners of security companies, the managers of security companies, because it looks good on camera. It looks great on camera. Matter of fact, where I work at as a law enforcement officer, in 2014, we ran active shooter training, right? And it was a global training. Basically, you had human resources involved, city manager, the finance department, public works, and it was like a 7-hour drill, right? We did the tactical portion, which is the law enforcement guys. We interacted with Border Patrol. At the same time, there's obviously there's paperwork that has to be done while this is all occurring, and this is all done during a tabletop exercise inside of the safety of a huge training room, right? And what are we learning? So I talked to the guys that were involved in this training, that some of them were the trainers who are not qualified to even conduct this type of training. And I asked the guys that attended the training, like, what did you learn and who was critiquing you? Who was critiquing you when you're clearing the buildings? And the answer was nobody. So my overall question to these leaders of these municipalities is, what do you seek to gain? And obviously it all involved, like, media exposure, right? The media shows up, they take pictures, front page, this police department conducted active shooter drills with local partners, and they have all kinds of cool pictures, right? The cool pictures. But the reality is, you just wasted six or 8 hours by doing these tabletop exercises, these global exercises that involve the fire department and everything else. I'm not saying don't train with fire department. All I'm saying is, for you to achieve that skill, you have to achieve the micro skills first. Even where I work at, we're not even ready. So again, this is like the 5th time that I've been instrumental. Me and Randy Nunez have been instrumental in pushing forward an active shooter program. In the beginning, it was more him. Right now, we're equally involved. And I can tell you, from all the training I have, the tactical level training, SWAT training, critical incident management training, my staff does not have enough training, enough experiences right now to conduct a global exercise where you have fire department involved, the finance department involved, and PD, the hospital. There's nobody that is skilled at that level yet that is in my network. And this is coming from somebody who's actively doing these 2-day active shooter training courses. It's a waste of time. However, going back to this 16-hour post class, we don't go through all that. We don't go over the finance department, what they do, the fire department. No, it's more tactical related. Let's stop the shooter. Let's stop the bleeding. We stop the bleeding, then we can stop the dying. We have tourniquet drills. If you guys want to see more of what we did, go to my Instagram channel, which is The Firearms Trainer, and I'm going to constantly be posting some of the videos and photos that were taken that day so you can see what we did. I think we accomplished a lot, but honestly, 16 hours is an administrator's dream, okay? Do you think that security companies, you think that law enforcement agencies have the luxury of sending their guys to 40 hours of active shooter training? No. 16 hours just seems to fit the bill, though. I went to 6R, the 6R Academy in New Hampshire. I took their ballistic shield operator class. It's a 2-day class. Intense, again, almost no breaks. Crappy lunch period. Rush conditions, right? And there were some lieutenants in there. There's some captains. There's administrators in there. And SIG SAR, okay, the senior instructors from SIG asked the guys, do you guys want a 2-day training class, 3-day or 5-day? What do you guys want? And my suggestion is 3 days. So on the 3rd day, you could do scenario-based training. And guys, you're talking about a shield, okay? A shield is one component of active shooter training. And most of the time, you just leave it behind. But that's just one component, right? And we dedicated at 6R 2 days just for that small component of active shooter training. My recommendation is the 3rd day, you can run some scenarios, force on force. But the administrators in the class said no. 2 days of training, 16 hours, it fits the bill. They're only going to lose somebody on patrol or investigations or some specialized assignment for 2 days instead of 3 days or 5 days. And I think that's why that's kind of why Post presenters created a 2-day active shooter class for that exact reason. It's an administrator's dream is 2 days. Their dream is actually 4 hours, right? They can get away with an 8-hour class, that's fine, but 2 days. And this is also a pretty interesting thing, guys. Maybe if you're prior law enforcement, you can comment below. But how much of active shooter training do you get every year? At where I work at, because the chief does have confidence in my skills and my abilities and my leadership, he allows me to do 16 hours a year. I talked to a good friend of mine who works in the San Diego area, and his agency only allows 6 hours of active shooter training. There's a lot of other agencies where you only get to do active shooter training like once every 5 years. But outside of the state of Texas and I think Tennessee, there isn't a lot of active shooter training that happens. There isn't. There's something called MACTAC. This is your multi-assault terrorist action capabilities class. It's basically an active shooter class. It's designed a little bit differently because in the Los Angeles area, primarily some of the sheriff's stations over there and then LAPD, they're running 2-man cars. Or a lot of these cities, you're going to get backup within seconds. Right? So MACTAC is designed for those agencies that have exclusive manpower or a lot of manpower. Now, that MACTAC class is only 8 hours. Again, that's an administrator's dream. I mean, if you have a department that has 10,000 officers or 6,000 police officers and they have to go through this training, the administrator will love the budget to encompass an 8-hour day instead of a 16-hour day, because a 16-hour day is it's 2x, right? So anyhow, this class, we do cram tons of knowledge. You're not going to get, honestly, I don't think you're going to get training out there where they're not going to cram in information. We got positive feedback. We give blind evaluations at the end of the day. And for the most part, they were good. They were really good feedback. We had some of the guys ask us, when is the next training? So I thought that was pretty honorable. Let me just go through the comments. FCJ9 says, I had yearly training that included up to 8 hours of active shooter. Yeah, and hey, look, I remember that you were, you're former law enforcement. So thank you so much for mentioning that. But look, 8 hours. That's only 8 hours, guys. I mean, it's probably more than a lot of these California agencies. We're doing 60. At my agency, because I'm in charge of, once again, I'm in charge of the firearms cadre. Chief has a lot of confidence in my abilities. He lets me do 16 hours. And at our agency, we are broke. It's a broke agency. You'd be surprised how broke we are. We're so broke, you almost buy all your equipment. Matter of fact, I talked to the chief one day, and he said that we didn't have enough money for bullets when he started. Matter of fact, day one, he went on duty on patrol with no bullets because the department didn't have any. And he had to go to the store, I think it was like Walmart or something like that, and buy some bullets, like Full Metal Jacket or something, and then he loaded it up. And then I think he was telling me he ran out. Like the box that he got wasn't enough to fill up all his magazines. But during those years, you made with what you have, right? But 8 hours is decent. 16, it's not enough though. And in the 8 hours, if you're running scenarios, you're basically running drills of skills that you think you have or skills that you were never taught. If 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 4 hours, so if 4 hours out of the 8 hours was drills, you didn't learn anything. I mean, very minimal. These should be 40-hour days, but again, we cram it into 2. Doug is here. Jack Spade says, I'm in Texas, the only state that matters. Luis Alfredo, he says, Alfred Segura, do you think it's worth signing up to EP school? Yeah, I agree with Jack. Yeah, it has to be a credible one. But, and then ABSMS is, but you're still not guaranteed a job. It's based on how well you can mesh with the job. Some waste 25 grand and still can't get on details. I agree. You know, we could do a video on that. But do not, don't spend 25 grand on an EP school. Don't. I told you on how to get in on EP. I can do another video. I can explain whether it's waste your money, and I have stake in the game in this, or skin in the game. I'm connected with Active Crisis Consulting LLC out of Texas. I interviewed Fred Pyrie. He's the CEO, I believe. Yeah, CEO of that company. We did like an hour and 15-minute interview where he broke down the Charlie Kirk assassination, and he talked about what his firm does. And I think you guys should watch that video. Gives you a lot of insight into EP work. So what I'm saying is I have stake in the game. Yes, I'm connected to an EP school, but if I do a video on this, I'm going to be honest on my thoughts on EP school. FCJ9 says, reasonable force can be used to effect an arrest, overcome resistance, or prevent escape. Absolutely, that's 835A, which has changed. You know, 835A of the criminal code, California Penal Code, it was only, I think, a paragraph long. Maybe like 6 sentences. You remember that? Now it's pages and pages and pages long. SCJ9 says, ideally instructors should be up on catwalks above the exercises. That's a sign of a good chorus. Not really. It depends. It really depends. It depends on how well those instructors are able to communicate. And also, what I don't like about, now if you're doing live fire, CQB, you can't do a catwalk. At Gunsight, where I've trained before, there was an instructor that was shot by a student. He was on the catwalk. The disadvantage you have on the catwalk is you can't use a high port position or a high carry position because of the instructors that are on the catwalk. Those positions are relevant. So when we teach CQB, when Randy goes over CQB, he teaches the high port positions, and he explains within his group of SEAL buddies and Tier 1 operators, a lot of them will go a high port. Now, I got to train with a pretty cool dude from DevGru. He retired already, former DevGru operator, and he said he can use any position. He said high port, low port, it don't matter. But high port, Randy says during our trainings, when he was training in the infantry, you couldn't do the high port because the instructors didn't want to get flagged. So that was one of the reasons. And there's so many benefits that we discuss in the class in carrying in a high port position. There's like 3 or 4 benefits, and that is highly described in the class. I mean, Randy really hit the nail on the head for that one. So yes, there's benefits and there's disadvantages to instructors being on a catwalk. But thank you so much for bringing that up. Mike says, don't go to ESI or whatever straight out of the gate. You should not go to the $10,000 courses out the gate thinking that'll get you in. I agree. He says that PFC or La Sorsa or Omen, he's heard about the schools, and he's local in Vegas. And Luciano's out of Florida. Armed security. Welcome. All right, guys. That's all I got. Once again, we have the 2-day active shooter class. It is a hands-on class, and I really think you're gonna like it. It's this coming week, Thursday and Friday, in Santee, California. It's Eastern San Diego County. If you're in another state, that's not a problem. You can come too. We had people fly from Alaska. Cody Yeager from Alaska flew last time. What was I gonna say? As long as you have a guard card for that state, and an exposed carry or some type of like license, even a CCW from that state, and you were able to pass an FBI course of fire with an 80%, come to the class. Thursday, Friday. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Take care. I'm looking forward to feedback.